9. Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. 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 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11. Roger, Tower.
Welcome to the Alienprobepodcast. It is Saturday, June 22nd, 2024. I'm Doug. Joining me today is Matt and Susie Ammerman, Hypnotherapist. Hi, Susie. How's it going?
It's going good. Thanks for inviting me, guys.
Oh, our pleasure. What part of the world are you in?
I currently reside in Massachusetts, just outside what they call Boston.
Boston?
But I am not from here. I'm originally from California.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know. And I actually grew up near Edwards Air Force Base along the flight line to Area
no way.
51.
Oh, shoot.
Yep. So that has kind of always been there.
California City?
Near there, yeah.
Near there, yeah.
If you know anything about Ridgecrest,
No.
okay. That's where they built and designed the Sidewinder missile
Oh, that's fun.
out in the middle of the desert.
My son used to race motocross. We there was a little track in California City that we'd go to every once in a while.
Yeah, we used to fly into there once in a while. So
That's nice.
it's I don't know, maybe 30 minutes away from there.
Wow.
That's close.
Yep.
There's a rumor that there's buried UFO remnants at the end of one of the runways at Edwards.
That's kind of all over that area.
Yeah, right.
That rumor.
Yeah.
Did you ever
Stick a
see
fork in it, you'll find something.
Yeah.
Did
right.
you? Did you? I know what they would do is they'd have experimental aircraft and they'd crash them and then they'd just take a bulldozer and dig a hole and then put them in there.
We'll deal with
Exactly.
that 40 years later. We'll deal with that later.
Yeah, that whole area is because where they built and designed things that did not exist yet.
Yeah.
And often crashed. So you think about Edwards Air Force Base, it was all about experimental aircraft. So
Wow.
you learn to remember that don't immediately take your mind to the alien stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
The bulk of it's going to be current,
Yep.
just not,
Yep.
known yet.
Yeah. Black
However, there is some stuff out there that's questionable.
Agreed.
That's what you want to look for.
Yeah.
Have you seen anything?
A few things flying around, especially if you go out into Nevada.
Right.
Not too much since I didn't live right there, but you have to be careful because, like I said, you learn that not everything is immediately, extraterrestrial or whatever.
Right.
But we don't like
You're
that.
just-
We don't like that hypothesis.
Yeah, but it teaches you to focus on what really could be.
I hear that all the time. Well, it doesn't
Yep.
necessarily need to be a UFO. It's probably, it's ours, but
Right.
hyper technical.
Well, they're all UFO because we don't know what they are.
That is technical. That is technically true. They all are UFO. They
they're-
just not be an ETV, an extraterrestrial vehicle.
Oh.
Exactly.
Those are the ones you want to look
ETV.
for.
Right.
That's new to me.
I've never heard that either.
Believe it or not, there's something we haven't heard. Tell us about yourself, there, Susie.
Well, I already explained where I'm from. I am a trained hypnotherapist. I started, just basically, I was interested in so many different things. And I'm like, how do I bring all this together? It's so much odd stuff. And I started doing Reiki training. And when I started going through the third option of becoming a Reiki master, it finally just dawned on me, I can combine all of these interests with hypnotherapy. So I can bring in.
What's Reiki? I hear that
question.
term. I
Yep.
don't know what that is.
Okay, Reiki is the body's own natural energy system.
Okay.
So you can cleanse the energy if you're kind of running low on things or things are a little funky. You can cleanse that energy and then refill your energy coffers to where you're, back up to snuff.
Yeah.
So that's basically,
Very
it's
cool.
utilizing the body's own energy system to clear and cleanse things. And I do utilize it in my sessions a lot of times because then it allows people to get that energy back and just be revitalized, especially after a session is done.
Very nice.
Yeah. People really like it because it helps them clear things up and just be like zinging again. It can also train you or help work with the person to train them to relax after something's going on. So it works both ways.
That's important these days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I do
Relaxing.
have a lot of sessions about relaxation, and that's why I also build it into all of my hypnotherapy, not all of them, but most of my sessions, so that people learn to relax and be refilled with that energy and be calm again.
My wife could probably use that. You should see her driving on the road with the way
Oh, I hear
people are
you.
driving right now. The stop signs are just kind of a suggestion.
That's an option.
Hey, I live on the East Coast. I feel your pain.
Right.
Is it bad there
It's even
too?
worse.
I mean, it's horrible.
It's worse.
It's worse.
It's worse?
It's worse.
It is worse.
We're in Sacramento. I think we're like the number 4 of the most rude and
Rude
obnoxious
drivers.
Yeah, most
Well, up until a
accidents.
few years ago, the lanes were a suggestion.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So they drove in the E lanes all the time as
Oh,
an extra
wow.
lane.
Really?
Yeah. Yep. That has now been revoked.
Oh,
Thank
no
goodness.
more.
Yes.
Awesome.
So true. So did you want to go through the basic training that I've been through, the
I'd
rest
like
of
to
that?
see
Okay.
how did you get into the how did you evolve, and now is this your regular job or is it something you can do on the
It's
side?
turning into my regular job. I had I had a medical issue a few years ago where I had
Oh,
a brain tumor
oh
removed that
no.
was larger than a golf ball.
Oh
Wow.
Yeah.
wow.
So
How are you doing? Is it any ill effects or everything go okay?
just a few things left that are lingering, nothing huge, thank the goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the secondary surgery was just to clean up some of that stuff. I went through chemo and radiation and all of that.
Oh,
It's
wow.
So
cancerous
now,
too? Oh no.
yes, it was. It ended up being cancerous.
Wow.
So recovering from all of that, I'm on a good track now. The doctors have got all the swelling down. A lot of the functions are back. So I'm doing pretty good.
Good. That's
I
great
just
to
want to
hear.
get back to work.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so that's part of what I've been doing is just I was doing some retraining, and now I'm ready to get back into the field, get help to people who need it. And so I first did, this was several years ago before all of this, but I worked with Mark Johnson. He is an instructor for hypnotherapy. He is affiliated with the Michael Newton Institute. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but he's the guy that designed all of the life between lives stuff. So it's where your soul goes in between those lives and what happens.
Oh.
So I did the initial training with him on the hypnotherapy, and then I did the second piece, which is past life regression, which is where all the regressions come in when I'm working with the experiencers. And the reason you want to do the past life is there are times when if you've got a person who's had multiple experiences and you want to go back and figure out where it all began, there are times when you're going back, you're going back, you're going back, and then boom, they're in a past life and this is where it all started.
Right.
So you're able to work with them, find out what happened, maybe what instigated it, and then go forward from there and then start going through all those different experiences to learn more about it.
What
And
happens?
it helps.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, what?
What happens when you die? What do you think?
Well, there are different experiences. It involves people, and you know what happens when you involve people. Every story is different.
Unfortunately,
I was
yes.
going to say problems, but go ahead.
Well, there's that too, and then you've got cultures, nationalities, all that stuff is ingrained. So everything is different, and you have to take that into consideration. So when you deal with people, you deal with people and everything that comes along with people.
Right.
So at that point, then you just kind of want to work forward and see what happened, especially if they're children. They may not necessarily have the terminology to explain what happened to them. So there's another method that you can use to kind of clarify what happened when they were younger so that they can speak to it in today's terms. It's about bringing in their current self. So if something happened when they were 5, 6, 7 until they were 10 or still happening, they may not have been able to explain, this is what's going on, Mom. And Mom's like, yeah, right. Nice dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I work with the adult person. They're explaining what happened when they were younger. And if the kid isn't quite able to express what happened to them, what we can do is we can pause the scene, go back to the beginning, then invite their current self in, their adult self, who has all of the mental faculties and the speech and all of that to explain it, and have them be kind of not necessarily a guide, but come in as their current self and watch what happened. And they can explain what's happening with them when they were younger.
Oh, wow.
So you're talking to the adult self about what happened when they were younger,
Right.
and they're able to use their current terminology to then explain what was going on.
Right.
So it helps them clarify, oh, this is what happened when I was younger.
Right.
Now I get it.
Makes sense.
And sometimes, bringing them in as an observer, you can do it like that. Or if they're getting visibly upset about something that's going on, you can bring them in as an observer and have them watch it without all of the emotion attached. So, like one guy, for instance, I knew he was a bit of a Trekkie. So when I brought him in, he was having trouble. Yeah, you'll enjoy this. He was having some trouble and he was getting upset. So we paused the session. We went back to the beginning. I brought in his current self into the holodeck.
Oh.
And then it's described the scene from there.
Oh.
So he was able
That's
to
creative.
picture the whole thing
Yep.
like it was live,
Yeah.
utilizing the holodeck. And then at that point, he's able to not just pay attention to the scene that's going on that he was in, but look around and see what else was happening. Because your brain actually picks up a whole lot more than what you're focused on.
Yeah.
You're just not focused there, so you're not thinking about it. So he was wandering around, looking around. He was like, afterwards, he's like, I can't believe how much extra stuff I saw, what I caught. I'm like, it was all there when you walked in the door.
Right.
You were just focused on something else. This time we went back, we let that scene replay in the background, and now we're able to focus on what else was going on. So they get a whole lot more information. So if they're if it happens to exactly, and they're not agitated,
right,
they are comfortable, and they're able to describe what all was going on during this experience without getting all freaked out.
Yeah, or reliving whatever trauma it is. And
Exactly.
They're watching from the outside.
Is there any can any harm come psychologically to people that are doing regression therapy?
There can be. You need to be very cognizant of what's going on. And that's kind of the benefit of going in as an observer. They can see it, and they're detached isn't necessarily the correct word, but they're able to view it in a different context.
Right.
So they can get through it.
Now, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it sometimes is better than trying to push through and get that information when you can just go in another way when they're relaxed and view it and describe it like they're watching a movie.
Nice. Now, do you help your client get to their Akashic records? Is that how you do that?
I have not done that yet. No.
Okay.
Now, there are people that do that. That just
Right.
doesn't happen to be my specialty.
Okay.
What's that? Get their what?
Akashic records. Basically, everything that's ever happened, forward and backwards. It's like a
Oh, wow.
certain, yeah. That's what
Yep.
you're.
Yeah, I am
studying.
aware of it.
Wow.
So it's kind of the same idea of when you're
Right.
doing the life between lives is you're visiting all these different lives and seeing what happened.
Right.
You just may not have the full record of it
Right.
available at that time.
That's
But
cool.
yes, that is a possibility.
That's awesome.
Wow. So we have also in contact. I've got a guy that works with me that's doing regression therapy, and I witnessed it. Have you done it yourself? Do you have someone else
Yes,
that
I
does
have.
it? Do you do it yourself, or do you have someone actually?
Someone else someone else comes in and does that.
Yeah.
That's actually part of our training.
Really?
Is we have to go back and forth with sessions with everyone in the class, actually performing and receiving these sessions, these types of sessions.
Right.
So everything that you're learning or being taught, you're also doing and experiencing. It's part of the training, which is why I love the Michael Newton Institute method,
Right.
because you're not just viewing it all, you're doing it all and
Yeah.
experiencing it all.
I think that would
Which is
help.
why I chose Mark and all of the way that they train, is you're actually physically doing it.
What were some of
And
your
it's all-
can you say what some of your past life experiences were?
Let's see.
There's so many, right?
Oh, I know there are.
I've had a lot of past lives.
I've been a school teacher in the Old West.
Nice.
I've been a lot of stuff alone, which is not surprising.
Right.
But experiencing things like that, the school teacher was a new one because I was actually involved with people, because I had students, I had people that helped me, I lived in their house when I taught their students, just all kinds of things. I have also had experiences where I have been on other worlds
Nice.
Yeah.
when I've done these sessions.
I wondered
So-
about that.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
The therapist we talked to, I haven't done it myself, but he had a couple of his experiences were interesting. One of them was that he was a crystal from another galaxy that was communicating. He was being used to communicate. That it was his job to communicate between worlds and things. And another thing was that he was an abortion. He goes, it was just read and then done.
Really?
Yeah.
Whoa,
Oh.
Yeah, it was wild.
that's interesting.
Yeah, that was, and I said, "Wow, oh, whoa, it's pretty crazy." But I've witnessed it. And it's Matt's done it. What was your thing? It was a different kind of when you're on stage with the.
Oh yeah, I've done a normal hypnosis when I was in my 20s, so we're talking a while ago, and
Not regression, but
no, it wasn't regression. It was, and that's where I when I first saw it, I'm like, this is a joke. It's not real. And I was with, I think, my wife or somebody, and they're like, we're going to pick a bunch of people out of the audience. And, of course, she pulled my hand up and we get up there. And all I do remember was I wasn't in any under, like a control, but it was like just a relaxation and not really... It didn't matter what people thought. So when he suggestively say things like "act like a chicken," I just immediately did it. It didn't matter.
Did you act like a chicken?
I did. I walked through, I was running.
Yeah, those are interesting.
Yeah, and
That's scary.
Go ahead.
it's just suggestive.
Well, it is. It's the whole theory behind that kind of stage hypnosis is those are people who actually want to be up there and, do that kind of stuff. If you don't want to do hypnosis,
you don't.
nobody can make you do it.
Exactly. That's exactly that point. Was I just felt easy, and it did not matter. I didn't have any kind of self consciousness of myself and all that. So yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So when I'm with a person working with them, I can make all kinds of suggestions. They don't have to do any of them.
Right.
If they don't want to. If they don't want to talk about something, they don't have to talk about it.
Yep.
I don't force them into anything.
No.
But the main thing with the hypnosis is you don't want to do any kind of leading.
Right.
You want to do just guiding. You make
Right.
suggestions. You give them different alternatives. You ask a lot of open-ended questions, but you don't want to tell them what their story is. You need to do those open-ended questions so that they can then tell their story.
Yeah, that's what elder, right? That's
When I watched the hypnotherapist with my friend, he just would say, "What are you wearing? What year is it? What location are you?" He wouldn't say anything this was the most fascinating. I didn't really believe in it, And this was the most fascinating thing I think I've ever witnessed personally in my life. I've never, he was abducted. He was in a craft underneath the water, and the sides of the ship were translucent, so you could see the fish. And this is something that I haven't because we're ufologists, basically. We study all the phenomenon. We never know all the answers, but the side of the ship just was clear, so he's underwater and you could see the fish and things, and I've never, and the propulsion unit in the center, he was describing just these balls in the center and the beans, and that, he didn't feel threatened, but he did I went a second time, he had to, another hour he did, 2 hours, and he was actually abducted and he was tied up, and it was, he had gotten in an he had surgery on him. They did something to him. And when he woke up, he said his side hurt really bad, exactly where the surgery was. It was really weird.
Wow.
And,
So,
it was,
it's interesting.
I mean, it was the most and he was 3 or 4 different past lives. Do you run across people today in a past life regression? Does that happen?
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it does.
That happened in the second session.
There are a lot of times when people are with the same people in a different capacity throughout different lives.
I do believe that. The last session he was at, he was with the Knights, the Templars. He was a member of the Templars, and he said, the therapist was asking questions, and he says, "Is there anyone there that you know?" And he said, "Doug, he's on a horse right there." It was really weird. It was really, he just smiled. He had this biggest smile on his face, but he was out. I was just, and then I thought, is that kind of weird? I mean, does that make it kind of
No,
funny?
that's not kind of weird. There are people who experience multiple, maybe not consecutive, but multiple lives with some of the same people.
That's fascinating.
Yeah. So in addition to those 2 main trainings, I'm kind of working through the one with the Michael Newton Institute. That takes a lot of credits to do. I've done the Yvonne Smith abduction training. And then, like I said, I'm a Reiki master, so I incorporate that a lot.
The abduction specific? Abduction
yes.
like extraterrestrial or just
Yes.
people? Okay.
Yes. Now, when I go in, I know it's a possibility that, yes, they may have actually been abducted, but the point is to go in without any pre-imagined suggestion.
Right.
That's a better word.
Preconceived
because
notion.
you don't want to lead them into something that may not have happened.
Yep.
And you want to discover what really did happen. The brain is a crazy organ.
Yeah.
And a person may have had a bad experience, and rather than think that another human being did something so horrible to them, their mind turns it into, hey, I was abducted, this happened to me, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
And you want to go in completely open-minded, not saying, let's see what those aliens did to you, and just say, okay, where are you? What happened? And they may discover it was not aliens.
Right.
And that's your point, is to find out the truth through open questioning.
Does that turn out to be a huge emotional experience when they discover that?
It can be, yes.
Yep.
It wasn't that my brain turned it into something cool and it was really horrible.
Right.
Correct.
That would,
just because they couldn't handle it. And that,
well,
I don't know if I'd handle it.
Right.
Yeah, no, it would be not a good thing for
It's
sure.
pretty rare, but that's why you need to be careful of how you're stating your questions and what you're trying to find.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, I'm fascinated with the whole thing, and it's good. And I'll tell you what I recorded. He allowed us to record the session. The therapist recorded, but I couldn't hear. Elder talks really quietly, so you couldn't hear what his responses were. I could hear it, but it wasn't recording, and so he had to write it down. And basically, at the end, he would hand him, what it was that he said.
Transcript.
Yeah, and so I recorded it, and then the weirdest thing happened. So I was laying, I was kind of kicking it, and I said, I'm going to listen to it. So I turned it on, and I fell asleep, and and when I woke, it was that 3, 2, 1. You're going to wake up 3, 2, 1 thing at the end, and I woke up, and then during the time, I actually had an experience where I was in the Old West, and
In there.
I was I was in the Old West walking with another guy, another cowboy. We had our chaps. I don't know why we didn't have horses, but we were walking, and we had walking up the road with the tracks that are ruts that the wagons would make, and we're walking between these things, and it was like 18. I knew it was the 1800s. And I was cowboy hats. I'm just like, what
sure
the hell?
It was a dream. You sure it was a dream?
Yeah, and then I thought it was a dream. I go, was that a dream? And then I talked to a therapist lately. He goes, yeah, well, I'll throw that in free for you.
Yeah, I worked with a guy once that, we were just trying to figure out what happened. And he had multiple things when he was a kid. And we were going back and back and back. And then we ended up popping into a past life. And he was describing where he was, what was going on, time, place, blah, 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 blah. Well, then the next day he emails me and he goes, I did some research and I found the guy.
Oh, wow.
So he knew, he just the basics from his session. He found out who he was, where he was, what he did, blah, blah, blah. And he was floored. You don't usually get that much information.
Right.
Yeah.
You get an idea of where they might have been. But he actually found the guy in the records.
Wow. That's
It was a total trip.
That's cool. And that's got to be good for you, if you've gotten that kind of session. It's like, you know what? It's kind of proven.
Mm-hmm.
Have you how many you've done a lot of sessions, Susie?
I have. I got waylaid, like I said, in the middle there. But I have been doing this for several years now. Not exclusively experiencers. I've done past life regressions. I like working with the experiencers. I have no objection to them. Somebody needs to provide them help. Whether what really happened to them happened or didn't, they need to know.
Right. Right.
And, those kinds of sessions can be really beneficial to them of, oh, I'm so relieved. Now I know, especially if it's missing time because they don't know what happened. I went to a party, I met my friends, and then 3 hours later, I'm somewhere else and they thought I had left, but I'm still there and I don't know what happened.
Yeah.
So we'll go through that. And the funniest thing when you're doing these, before you get a lot of information from them, you're saying a lot of, and then, and then,
right.
and then, until they start giving you these nuggets. And you're like, okay, now let's take blah, 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 and go from there. So you're able to take their own terminology and descriptions and give that back to them so that they can continue on with their story.
Right. You're helping them dig. And get
Exactly.
Have you had?
Because it's not my story to tell.
Right.
It's theirs.
Yeah.
Have you had?
I just helped them get to it. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Specific without saying who it was, obviously. Extraterrestrial experiences.
There was one guy who he believes that they were extraterrestrials, but they were all living underground.
Yeah.
Because he realized after a few sessions that he was never seeing or getting into any kind of vehicle to go elsewhere. He was going and being taken underground and then having these different experiences.
Where was he, Susie? Where's underground?
The ground is here. And it's
You go under. All right, never mind.
Good answer. Good answer.
I answered your question.
Yes, you did.
I always want to say, because when I didn't want to interrupt the therapist like I'm interrupting you every time. Try to find out where he is. I mean, he was on an island and he gets picked up by the ship and he goes underwater. Where? Maybe he doesn't know. But it's like, can we get any specifics so we can actually?
Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't.
Yeah.
And, I'll give you guys generalities, but it's up to them to disclose any information they want to disclose.
Yeah.
Because it's a closed session.
Yeah.
That's why when I'm working with the podcasters, we take the whole thing offline once they agree to do it. And it's their session, their private session. even the recordings, and what comes out of that is all of theirs.
Right.
Right.
That makes
Now,
sense.
if they want to go back and talk to the podcaster and say what they found, that's fine. I'm not going to speak to it
Right.
because it's a whole confidentiality thing.
Yeah.
Do you do it
So
during a podcast?
No, not yet. I have not. I have not
Okay.
had anyone agree to that. And if I were to, I couldn't do the first part of putting them under hypnosis because then you'd all miss a session
Right. Right.
and you'd have your individual experience.
Yep.
But
I don't think I've heard
that,
of anybody doing it during a podcast.
I don't think
Jimmy
so. Plus,
Church
they
has.
take
Oh, has he?
very long time.
Jimmy Church did, and I haven't listened. He did one live.
Really?
Yeah,
I'm gonna
I have
look
to
that up.
find that episode. Yeah,
Yeah.
the Fade to Black.
I know they've done hypnosis and aired those. I
Right.
wasn't sure about the actual experiencers.
Yeah.
If they had done something like that. A lot of them wanted to be private because they don't know what's going to come up
Right.
and what happened to them during that time, especially if it wasn't that good.
Yeah.
Well, I wouldn't do it live.
Y-
We
no.
could record it, and then we could figure out.
Yeah. You never know. So
Sometimes people
Right.
don't want it worldwide.
So I do it all offline.
worldwide experience.
Yep.
You know, of what happened to you, and you talking
That would
about
be
it.
a much viewed episode.
Right.
Yeah. So
Or maybe nothing happened, and
yeah,
well,
then you're like, well, that was kind of boring.
right. Right. I'm sure something, but nothing. Super exciting.
Right.
How much?
Hello,
do
Geraldo.
Yeah, I know, huh? For real. How much do you charge for these?
For a general session, and this is where we get into the podcaster special,
Oh, nice.
is yes, exactly. Since I worked and got my licensing and all of that, my credits working with podcasters, what I do is if the podcasters are in contact with the experiencers, hey, I want to talk to this person. I maybe want to do a session, blah, blah, blah. They'll talk to the podcaster offline. And then if they say, hey, I want to talk to her, you guys can send me their information and then I'll work with them offline to do that. And what we then do is if they go through the podcaster, they get a discount.
Nice.
If they do it on their own, no discount.
Right.
So it's
Okay.
worthwhile for both sides
Yeah.
to, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. Let me send you my information and let me talk to the podcaster. The podcaster then forwards their information to me. I work with them. If we do a session, great. So it gives you guys the exposure,
Right.
gets people into your site, gets,
Yep.
people talking to you, gets, more listeners.
Good.
I get the people coming in who need the work, and then they get the help.
That's
So
awesome.
it's kind of a triple threat.
Yep.
Triple threat.
Yes.
Where do you do this? Can you do it over like this?
Yes.
Like Zoom.
Yep. Yep. I do it all remote.
Yep.
So and I've worked with people around the world. I've worked with people in Australia, Canada, across the US.
Nice.
Yeah. I
What's-
just got to make sure I get into the right time zone and get up on time.
How long do they normally last?
A full experience, pre-discussion, post-discussion, and the hypnosis in between
Right.
is generally around 3 hours.
Okay.
Occasionally, if they have just one experience, pretty simple.
Right.
Now, there may be multiple, and they may want to cover more stuff. So, we can try to, depends on how long each thing is,
Right.
what they want to do. It's completely up to them. They're in the driver's seat.
Cool.
That's amazing.
So that's mainly how I work, is getting the information through the podcasters because you guys have the exposure.
Right.
So it's a never-ending source of information because you guys are podcasting every single week pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they contact you, say, hey, I want to get some more information on this, possibly do a session. Then you get their information, pass it on to me.
Yeah.
I work with them. They do or do not do a session. It's up to them after the discussion. And we go from there.
Nice. Doug's a podcasting machine too. So
Yeah.
Yep.
Machine.
I am not a robot.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's.
Bebop or
Yeah, we try to do every week. It depends. We try to force. We would force it, and just it dilutes the content. So
Right.
I like to have
Right.
somebody like you, a guest like you on. Makes it more interesting for
get your
for everybody.
exposure.
Right.
Yeah.
I just like having the three-way triple threat
That's
of,
cool.
it gets you the exposure,
Yeah.
gets you more people watching, gets people involved, gets people help, gets me clients. I call it the triple threat.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, that's a great concept. Are you doing this with any other podcasters?
Yes, I am.
Oh, who do you
I
use?
haven't gotten any others yet, but like I said, I originally did all of my training using a podcaster
Cool.
Oh, wow.
because they were able to get me clients, and those sessions counted toward my training and got me certified.
Yeah.
So
It's
I've
in,
been doing this for several years now, and I'm reaching out. And now that we've got all this new explosion with the 2017 stuff and all that stuff coming to light,
Right.
there are more and more podcasts out there,
Yeah.
and we can reach more experiencers and get them help.
Yeah. There's
Legitimate help of people that aren't going to go, yeah, I'll take your money, but I don't believe anything you're
Yeah.
saying.
Right.
That's not me.
There's a lot of podcasts out there too.
yeah, it became, especially with the UFO. I started this 2 years ago, and it wasn't as big
Right.
2 years ago, and I had lots of followers and listeners. And as it became, the whole world's doing it now. Even Taylor Swift's got a song, and she's being beamed up into a UFO on her stage, and I'm like, is it nothing sacred?
You're gonna get her on the
Oh,
Be nice to her in case you get her on the show.
I don't think Taylor's coming
No.
on, even though my son's a Swiftie.
That's I thought they were trucks. I guess I'm thinking of something else.
Yeah, no, he's a Swiftie.
yeah. So what they can do is they can either contact me directly. I have a website. It's paranormalhypnosis.net. Email is the same thing, Susie, Susie, at paranormalhypnosis.net
Yeah.
if they want to contact me directly. But I really prefer to get the exposure through the podcasters and get them involved, get people used to the podcasters, that they're a resource. They're a never-ending resource.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we run into
And-
people all the time that, like, I won't mention their names, but they've had experiences, females, a few of them females, and they've had, I say this, on an experience, and it can be taken, as soon as they say it, I always go to, something bad must have happened to them, and then I suggest maybe that they go to a hypnotherapist and explore when we're off the show, and we'll say, have you ever considered going to a hypnotherapist and find out what this means? Because
Right.
a lot of it's it's not just ET, it's paranormal. There's a lot of it for us. It's paranormal.
Yep.
I mean, we've had a couple that had the experience where they're laying in bed and all of a sudden something weird happens to them. It's that kind of thing. And
Right.
or the sheets are
Pulled
nothing
off.
really too weird, but it's like the sheets are pulled off, or
It could be anything.
we've had a few
Right.
different ones like that, and and no, I don't want to, do you want to? We're not. I go, we don't need to do it together. You go and you contact them directly,
Yeah.
and I
And
want to
that's-
see them get help.
Yep.
Right. And that's my whole focus is I I don't want to discourage, and I'm probably going to use a bad word here, the land of woo,
Right.
because they are people too. Things really did happen to them.
Right.
Yeah.
And just because someone else says, oh, that's woo-woo, so what? That's your opinion.
Yep.
Don't force your opinion on someone else, especially if you weren't there.
Right.
What's
You
woo?
don't know what happened.
What's woo?
The mind can paint the eye to whatever it wants to maybe cover up or
okay.
bury. Woo is like anything, kind of just everything that you have on their podcast is
I should
somewhat
do.
woo.
I should do that. I should know that.
Yes.
That's
Another
okay.
term.
Well, it
Well, you're
started
getting
off as
education
the
here.
land of woo, which
Right.
is, oh, you're a crazy person.
Right.
No.
Right. It's,
Just
yeah.
because something you don't understand happened to them doesn't mean, A, it didn't happen. So don't ever tell anyone that didn't happen.
No,
Yeah.
I never would say
It's
that.
And-
kind of the stigma for
Yeah.
UFOs of like
Correct.
exactly what she said. You're a little out there, So it's kind of a stigma word.
Tinfoil Hat Club.
Yeah,
The
exactly.
Yes.
I have mine too. Where is it?
Well, the stigma is not as bad as it used to be back in.
Correct.
No, it is not.
I wouldn't. I work for a fairly large company, and I'm pretty sure my owners know that I do this because other people probably said I was crazy. But they don't
Welcome
care.
to Crazy Town.
They don't care. And I don't think they do. They're still employed right now anyway. So this isn't on my. By the way, this isn't our regular job. Yeah, we have real jobs too.
The hobby.
Like I said, the UFO podcast world has become everything now. So it's dilute.
A lot of
that people only have a certain amount of time to listen to podcasts. Like I'll only listen when I'm driving back and forth to work. I don't listen to them at work or at home generally.
Yeah, I was the same way. I listened to them when I was commuting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean that's the best way for me and the quietest.
Yes, that's true.
So I don't know. It's a huge subject now. I mean, it's in the Senate. Are we ever? Do you think we're ever going to? Do you follow the UFO thing, or is this just everything for you? Every weird thing.
I do some of the other stuff. I kind of started off with pretty much everything, and then I just kind of whittled it down to, the ghosty stuff is still there. People have experiences. They sometimes need help with that too. What really happened?
Right.
The main thing is the UFO stuff because it's a little more tangible. Plus, it's like way current right now.
Yeah.
So you're hearing a lot of it, especially with what's going on, in the government and all of that. So it's not as stigmatized as it was. Ghosts are not really stigmatized anymore.
Right.
I'll still help people if they want something from that realm. I'm not opposed to it. Hello, paranormal hypnosis.
Yeah.
Right.
So, people need help, and that's what I'm here for. I'm not here to judge them. I'm not here to just scoff at them.
Right.
I'm here to help them.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's why I do the discounts too.
Yeah.
Is, what? If they want to take the other method, get a discount, they're still going to get the help without the judgment.
That's awesome.
What do you think about the theory that extraterrestrials and paranormal contact are somehow related?
They're starting to separate that a little bit more, but currently right now I think it's all still kind of related. And now that they're talking about things crossing over dimensions and all of that, they're kind of tying them together again a little bit.
Yeah.
So it's just, but again, I'm not focused on the major trends. I'm focused on what's going on with this person.
Right. The social aspect.
What is this person's story?
People.
Because it's not a generalized thing. Even the experiences are not all generalized. You can't put people in a box. There is no box. So it's, this person needs help. Here's their story. What can we do?
Well, sometimes as you go through the journey, such as yours, you can develop a hypothesis after so many experiences and kind of formulate, you can even write a book or whatever, to kind of pull all this together.
Right. And that's something I'm tracking and have ideas on.
I think if it comes out that, this is what's happening, there is something out there, there is a woo, and there's more than that. I think people like you would help guide and help people that have had abductions or situations. So as it goes out that yes, this is the government to me is never going to say it, but I think the people will say it, and they're going to need a lot more people that can help guide. Oh, this is what happened. Okay, now it makes sense because it was technically been said that it's real. So yeah.
Correct. So as time goes on and whatever is disclosed, we'll see.
Yep.
But we won't know that for a while.
Yeah. We're not. Yeah, the government's never going to say anything.
And I'm a firm believer in if the aliens or whatever else is out there are even paying attention a little bit, why the hell would they go to the White House lawn?
Certainly not right now.
Or any government lawn. They would go to the
people. Yeah.
I don't think...
I want to talk to those who are real, not those
Fake.
that are.
Yeah, I don't.
Yes.
Yeah, I think they just kind of just. I'll throw this out there. I don't think they care. I think they're looking at us like we look at warring. I've said this before.
Yeah.
Warring ants
Yes.
in
Yep. I remember
Argentina.
you saying that.
Yeah.
And it's they don't care. They don't.
It makes sense.
They it's with a passive interest, right, if at
Mm-hmm.
all. But I do think they're from here. I don't know about the across the universe thing. I mean, you may have been, Susie, you may have been told by an experience about extraterrestrial travel, which is certainly something that could happen. But I think a lot of it's here. I think they came here millions of years ago, and it's
I would agree with that too. I think I'm not going to narrow myself to one possibility
Right.
because we don't know yet.
I think it's all of it.
There's a little of everything. I think
Yeah.
they came here originally. They could have come from Mars. When Mars, there was that. You're
When it was
familiar,
colonized.
yeah. When you're
Right.
you're familiar with MK Ultra, where
Yep.
I'm sure you are. And well, the government had a guy that actually visualized. He gave him a coordinate on Mars and told him the coordinate, and he told him that it was a million years ago, and then the guy somehow envisioned what actually happened there, and that they left Mars because the atmosphere got sucked out. I know it could be science fiction, obviously, but hey, the atmosphere got sucked off, and then they left, and then they came to Earth, and then he visualized them on Earth, and it was volcanic and all crazy, and they ended up going underground a million years
Yep.
ago. So it's
I
an
have come
interesting-
across the underground stuff multiple times.
Right.
So I don't know where they going. They're in Antarctica, or or where are they in the Andes, or who knows where they're going. But it's
Yeah.
interesting concept. I wish I was a hypnotherapist. I'd be fascinated. I'd be too guiding though.
Yeah.
You see any
No,
flying
you want to
saucers?
guide, you don't want to lead.
Oh, okay. Well, our guys, he just said, if you need, he did say to our guy, that our experiencer, that have you ever seen any? Because that's why he was there. I mean, before you go into the session, for this guy, you write down the things that you want to know. One of them was an elder who went there. He stated that he wants to know if he's ever been. He really felt like he was abducted. He didn't have any missing time things or anything, but he just felt like he'd been abducted, and it turned out he did. And so the therapist asked him, and then that's when he told about it. One in each different session. He talked about it. So I'd be asking that every time, whether they wanted to or not.
I think going into something like that, I've seen things that I completely just blank out of my mind, and it'll take something of me driving somewhere. Like I had one, and I never included. I was driving at work. I was at work driving a truck, and I look up the power lines, and it looked like a bicycle frame, but it was huge, and it was just sitting there right over the power line. And I always forget that experience until I drive past that part and look and see. And I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I had that like 2 years ago. So I think we blank stuff out of our mind, and you hear this all the time, people like, yeah, we saw something. Do you remember? And something sparks a memory. And, the mind is funny how it works, because it puts stuff right on out. And
Yep.
when you're guided and help to dig that up, that's when you find out. You remember.
This is what was going on.
Right, exactly.
Because there's the theory also that, you witness something,
Yep.
but you're all blasé about it, and they don't really keep it in your brain for long.
Right.
And so you're just like, move on with your day.
Yep. I think I went on like nothing happened. And again, months later, I drove by that spot at that right time when I had that sighting. And I'm like, oh, that's right. And then I immediately put in my notes, hey, you saw something at this, So,
Yep.
yeah, I think that's good.
What type of certification? You mentioned it briefly, but what kind of certification do you need? Is it required to do this, Susie?
It's not necessarily required, but you should do it because you need to know how to deal with the people. if things happen, if they have an
Training.
adverse reaction, right? And being certified and being with some kind of legitimate organization, like I'm with IACT, and they, do ongoing training and stuff like that. And you keep up with your credits. It just looks good. And then people are more, oh, she knows what she's doing. She's been through the training. She keeps up with her certification. It's all good.
Yeah, I think it makes you look a little more promising than if I were to just say I'm going to do it.
I was going to say,
right, because
I could try.
If you don't know what you're doing, you could cause some damage.
Right.
That's what I was going to say.
Right, especially if you don't know how to properly guide and you're leading instead, you're taking them to places that didn't even happen.
Right.
And this is that whole thing that happened in the 70s with the people that say they were abused by relatives, and none of that ever happened.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's why there's such a stigmata to it, or stigma, or whatever the word is you want to use.
Yeah, stigma.
Yeah. And that caused all kinds of issues. Yep. So you want that back, you want the training, you want all that shown, you want the certification to say, hey, I know what I'm doing. I know what not to do to get the information. Yep. And that's why you're really careful with the questions.
Yeah. What were your socials again? Your information?
The website is paranormalhypnosis.net. And the email is Susie, SUSIE, at paranormalhypnosis.net.
Awesome.
So anybody can contact me if they have questions or if they want to go through you guys.
Yeah.
Yes.
Triple threat.
Triple threat. Yeah. Talk to the podcaster. Say, hey, I'm interested in talking with this person. I may want to do a session. You guys can refer. Yeah. You get the business. I get the business. They get the help.
Yeah.
Triple threat.
Yeah. I like that.
And it's all about helping the experiencer.
Yeah.
Have you had anybody have an overall negative reaction when you did this, where something really bad happened and they reacted, well, I say violently, but dramatically?
Not overly dramatically. There are people that I just don't believe this. I don't believe this, because it's just too much. Them, even though they want to know, it's too far-fetched.
Yeah, it's too much.
And yeah, it's too much. Even if it's something mundane of, I went to the grocery store, time stopped, there were aliens there, blah, blah, blah. This is just too ridiculous. I don't believe this is crazy.
Right.
Blah, blah, this didn't happen. Yep. If they choose not to believe, that's up to them. I can't tell them what to believe.
Right. I think they have control of that. You're just guiding them to remember if they, stored it away or they...
I'm just taking them through the process.
Right.
And they can, whatever they uncover and find, it's up to them to believe or not believe.
Yep.
Have you, do you have any experience helping people that have drug or alcohol problems?
No, I don't venture into that area. That's a whole different certification and guidance, and it's a different program altogether.
I imagine that more dramatic. Well, that's where you start getting.
What am I going to do now, Matt?
I'll help you. As soon as we cut, I got you. Yeah. I have zero experience or training, but I got you. No, I'm kidding.
Be supportive.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. We're running up on our hour there, Susie. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you.
We're going to wrap it up a little bit. And we'll wrap it up. Thanks for listening to the latest episode of the Alien Probe Podcast. We welcome comments, questions, or requests to alienprobepodcast@gmail.com. Visit us on Facebook. Check out our website, alienprobe.net. Twitter and Instagram at alienprobepod. See us on Rumble. We are also on YouTube. Rumble would be the preferred area to watch us because they don't give us banners when we talk about COVID. So, Susie, thanks again. Where can we reach you one more time?
Susie at paranormalhypnosis.net or paranormalhypnosis.net for the website.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Any questions are welcome.
Thank you. Take care.
You too.